Chapter 708, Three-Way Standoff. Lin Chia stepped through the torii gate and immediately felt a dizzying sensation, his feet landing on the hard ground. Before he could assess his surroundings, a fierce punch wind swept in from behind, sharp and menacing, aimed directly at his vital points. Behind him, Wei Dong's eyes flashed with a chilling, killing intent. Wei Dong had been waiting for this moment for a long time. His original plan was to use psychological tactics to drive Lin Chia and his companion away from that location. Even if he died, it wouldn't matter much. However, if they insisted on coming here, Wei Dong would have a chance to counterattack. This opportunity came from the torii gates. Before Lin Chia and his companion arrived, Wei Dong had already explored this wall of torii gates. He discovered that each torii led to a different location of an abandoned shrine. In the best-case scenario, he could navigate through different torii gates with Lin Chia and his companion, using the spatial transfer function to shake them off, and then find the signal transmitter and relocate in advance. However, after observing for some time, he realized that Lin Chia was very cautious and would never enter different torii gates with him. Thus, he had to settle for a secondary plan, using his advantage of entering the torii first to ambush Lin Chia. In a situation where they couldn't use the Kazuki blade, seizing the initiative to strike, Wei Dong felt confident he wouldn't lose. Unfortunately, after Wei Dong's figure vanished into the torii, Lin Chia had already anticipated this situation and was prepared. At the moment the punch wind appeared, Lin Chia's mental perception had already pinpointed Wei Dong's location. He suddenly crouched down to evade the punch and then twisted his body to kick backward. At the same time, Wei Dong's punch missed and he retaliated with a whip kick. Bang! Their legs collided violently in mid-air, sending a gust of wind swirling. As a member of the S76 and the most dangerous paratrooper, Wei Dong often had to carry out missions within various human circles. Due to the scrutiny of deities or divine artifacts, paratroopers themselves did not require a forbidden area, only needing strong physical fitness and professional operational skills. Through his intense training, his physical abilities had become exceptionally strong. But even so, under Lin Chia's kick, his leg bone nearly shattered. Ultimately, Wei Dong was just a trained ordinary person, while Lin Chia possessed the physical prowess of the Sea Realm and the enhancement of the Starry Night Dancer. In a sense, his physical capabilities had long surpassed the limits of ordinary people. In excruciating pain, Wei Dong staggered, losing his balance, and was directly kicked away by Lin Chia, crashing against a towering dark gray wall before falling to the ground. Gritting his teeth, he struggled to stand up, his eyes filled with shock and confusion as he looked at Lin Chia. How could a Kazuki blade master possess such strength? At that moment, Amamiya Haruki stepped out from the torii beside the wall. Seeing Wei Dong in a sorry state, he frowned, already guessing what had just happened. Not bad, Lin Chia said. Wei Dong stared intently at Lin Chia, speaking slowly. Who exactly are you? A Kazuki blade master shouldn't have this level of power. How about you confess your identity first and then we can talk slowly? Lin Chia pulled out a pixelated handgun, playing with it in his hand, and spoke coldly. Wei Dong remained silent, and Lin Chia also kept quiet. The atmosphere suddenly grew tense. In this small room, young people from 3 different factions, the Dashio Night Watchers, the Mist Society, and the Japanese Kazuki blade masters, stood in different corners, probing and suspecting each other's identities. Of course, Lin Chia and Amamiya Haruki were already well acquainted. At that moment, the ground beneath them suddenly trembled. 3 minutes earlier, in the mist at the bottom of the Japanese Sea, Jelon Wu Xiangnan, and the night dove beneath the deep sea mirror, exploring along the surface with beams of light shining from above. Under the sea, the 3 could not communicate normally and could only convey information through gestures. The knight glanced at the positioning device, pointed in a direction, and the 3 began to swim slowly toward it. After an unknown amount of time, one of the beams of light passed over the mirror but did not reflect. Instead, it was swallowed, leaving only darkness. That was a gap in the deep sea mirror with a radius of over 200 meters. From the edge, the gap's surface was smooth yet irregular, as if pierced by some sharp object, and beneath this gap lay endless darkness. Wu Xiangnan turned to look at the knight, who held the positioning device, and gave him a thumbs up. The positioning device indicated that their target was right beneath this gap in the mirror. Wu Xiangnan swam in front, ready to dive directly into the gap, but Jialan quickly grabbed him, rolled up her right arm and made a strong gesture before swimming ahead of the two, diving into the gap first. Although they had a positioning device to determine direction, it did not mean entering the gap was without danger, and among the three, Jialan was the least afraid of danger. The three followed the gap in the mirror downward, and after an unknown amount of time, it felt as if they had passed through a thin film of bubbles, spinning dizzily before landing heavily on a hard bluestone slab. Jialan was the first to stand up, and upon seeing the scene before her, she froze in place. Before her was a wide bluestone road extending forward, leading to an unknown destination, flanked by deep gray high walls, and behind her was a strangely shaped massive vermilion gate. They had just fallen out of this vermilion gate. Following her, Wu Xiangnan and the knight also tumbled out of the gate. They looked around, and after Wu Xiangnan removed his oxygen mask and confirmed that the surrounding air was breathable, he began to take off his heavy diving gear. Have we arrived at a human circle? Jialan glanced at the faint blue aurora overhead and asked in confusion. Not sure, the knight replied, walking over to the side of the deep gray wall, gently touching the wall's surface as if pondering something. These walls are man-made, but they seem to have been here for quite some time. The layout here is indeed in the Japanese style. Wu Xiangnan pointed at the large vermilion gate they had fallen from and said, "This is called a torii, usually set up near various shrines in Japan, primarily to distinguish between the divine realm and the mundane world inhabited by humans. It serves as a kind of barrier, representing the entrance to the divine realm, and can be seen as a gate." The entrance to the divine realm, Jialan murmured. So this should be some shrine? The knight raised an eyebrow and smiled. Our CS society is best at blowing up shrines and temples. Chapter 709. Demon God Shrine. The knight took out a positioning device from his pocket and turned around, finally focusing on the side pillar of the torii gate. A palm-sized pixelated signal transmitter was quietly attached to it, its indicator flickering with a faint light. The knight removed the signal transmitter, his brow furrowed in confusion. What's wrong? Wu Xiangnan walked over to him and seeing the device in his palm asked, "Is this the signal transmitter for the paratrooper?" "That's right." The knight hesitated before speaking, but since the signal transmitter has already been set up, logically the paratrooper should be waiting here for us to rendezvous. "But there's no one around," Wu Xiangnan continued, crouching down to carefully examine the bluestone slabs beneath his feet. "And there are no signs of a struggle or pursuit. Did he leave on his own?" "That shouldn't be the case. The paratrooper wouldn't leave at such a critical time. Without him guiding us, it would take us a lot of time and effort to figure out the structure of the human circle, and there's also the risk of exposure. He wouldn't just abandon us like this." "Are you saying the paratrooper is in trouble?" The knight remained silent, quietly staring at the signal transmitter in his hand. After an unknown amount of time, he looked up at the bluestone path ahead. "Let's search the area first and see if there are any other clues." The three of them walked straight along the bluestone path. The deep gray walls seemed endless. The further they went, the darker the gray became and the temperature dropped rapidly. This strange change did not escape the perception of the three. Wu Xiangnan stopped, frowning as he looked at the surrounding walls. "Something feels off here." Jialan raised her head, sniffing the air, unconsciously tightening her grip on the black box in her hand. "It's the aura of the mysterious," Jialan said with certainty. "It's strong and there's more than one, but the scent seems different from the usual mysterious." In the 2 years of drifting, Jialan had encountered an astronomical number of mysterious beings. Even with just a hint of scent in the air, she could keenly sense the presence of the mysterious, their general direction and even their strength. "That doesn't make sense," the knight said, his confusion deepening. "The human circle was created by the gods. How could there be mysterious beings here? These things shouldn't be able to enter the human circle. Could it be that this isn't the human circle?" After hesitating for a moment, the knight extended his hand and grasped the air. A swirl of pure white mist rolled in his palm, and his brow furrowed immediately. "The forbidden ruins can be used normally. This really isn't the human circle?" He pondered for a moment and thought of a possibility. "I understand now. We are still within the gap." "Still in the gap?" Jialan asked in confusion. Didn't we just pass through the gap? The size of each human circle gap varies. Generally speaking, the larger the scale of a human circle, the larger the gap may be. If the space we are in is indeed the gap of Japan's human circle, then the scale of this human circle must be at a terrifying level. The knight continued seriously. So far, the largest human circle we've seen is the Sphinx in Egypt, which houses nearly 10 million people. Based on the size of this gap, the scale of its human circle might even be larger than Egypt. If that's the case, then this human circle we are in could be the largest and most insane human circle in the world. Upon hearing this, both Jialan and Wu Xiangnan fell silent. Jialan couldn't help but feel worried. In such a dangerous place, would Chier and the others be okay? Jialan tightened her grip on the black box, a determined look flashing in her eyes as she quickly walked along the bluestone path. The deep blue robe fluttered in the wind, and the red ribbon tied in her black hair swayed gently with her steps. Noticing the change in Jialan's demeanor, Wu Xiangnan and the knight exchanged glances, both seeing confusion in each other's eyes. What's wrong with this girl? Ignoring the gradually dropping temperature and the spreading chill, Jialan walked straight to the end of the long bluestone path. The deep gray walls abruptly stopped, revealing a vast shrine ruin before her. In this ruin stood one black stone statue after another, most of which were oddly shaped. A long-haired woman with two mouths, a short and ugly boy with a green lotus leaf on his head, a strange youth with a single horn on his head, and a graceful girl with flowing light blue hair. These statues were covered in cracks and moss, leaning haphazardly across the ruins, their expressions stiff and eerie, their movements very uncoordinated. The sight of these statues together was unsettling. Statues. The knight followed Jialan into the ruins, looking around and licking his lips, as if unable to suppress the instinct to destroy the shrine ingrained in him. Are these the deities worshipped by this shrine? No. Wu Xiangnan approached one of the boy statues and observed it closely. His expression suddenly changed. These aren't divine statues. They are images of demons. He stood up, his face darkening. On the surface, this statue resembles the Zashiki Warashi from Japanese folklore, and the girl with light blue hair next to it should be the Yukiana, while the boy behind must be a kappa. This shrine doesn't worship Japanese deities. It worships Japanese demons. A shrine that worships demons? The knight was greatly puzzled. How could such a thing exist? Who made these statues? It wasn't made by anyone. Standing in front of the Yukiana statue, Jialan, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. The mysterious aura I sensed earlier comes from here. They aren't just statues. They are mysterious beings from Japan that have been petrified and trapped here. They are alive. Just as the night watchman believed, the mysterious largely stemmed from legends and folklore around the world, and these statues before them were the embodiment of Japanese folklore. Alive. Upon hearing this, both Wu Xiangnan and the knight's expressions changed simultaneously. Things seemed to be different from what they had imagined. This was a gap leading to the human circle, yet a shrine dedicated to demons was built here and all the demon statues were alive. This situation was extremely bizarre. Even the knight, who had extensive experience in the mist, began to feel lost. What exactly is this place? Chapter 7:10. The Source of Danger. Don't touch these statues casually. Since they are alive, any external stimulus could potentially awaken them, the knight reminded. Wu Xiangnan moved among the statues, carefully observing each one's expression, gaze, and even the direction of their movements. After a long while, he stood among the many statues and turned his head in a certain direction, puzzled. What did you find? The knight asked when he saw Wu Xiangnan deep in thought. The movements of these statues are mostly running or slightly reaching out with their arms. There's something in their eyes. Longing? Are they competing for something? Wu Xiangnan speculated, staring in that direction. He continued, look at the direction most of their movements are aimed at. It's over there. What's over there? I don't know. Perhaps we should go take a look. The three of them navigated through the many grotesque statues. The deeper they went, the denser the statues became. In this demon shrine's ruins, there were at least over 40 mysteries, transformed into stone statues, all exuding a terrifying aura. As they ventured deeper, a small black temple finally came into view. The temple was only 2 or 3 meters high, roughly the size of an ordinary basketball court. Its pitch-black walls and ancient stone pillars supported a Japanese shrine roof. In the center of the shrine stood a towering statue, adorned with golden rings and a jade pendant hanging from its back, looking incredibly majestic. Its left palm faced upward as if holding something invisible, but the space between its palms was empty. In the center of its right palm floated a silver chaotic sphere, emitting an eerie, illusory light in the dark shrine, rolling as if it were alive. The moment Wu Xiangnan and the knight saw the silver sphere, for some reason their eyes were glued to it, unable to look away. An unprecedented desire surged within them, a primal instinct stronger than survival and reproduction. A species yearning for evolution and liberation from the shackles of the mortal body. Deep within their hearts, an incredibly strong thought compelled them to obtain that silver sphere. They instinctively reached out their hands, wanting to grasp the silver sphere. At that moment, a pair of fair hands simultaneously grabbed both of their wrists. Standing before them was Jialon, dressed in a deep blue Han robe, firmly gripping their wrists with a serious expression in her eyes. "You can't touch this." Upon hearing this, Wu Xiangnan and the knight's dazed eyes showed no signs of change. They couldn't control the desire deep within them, and their hands instinctively struggled against Jialon, trying to break free from her grip to seize the silver sphere. Wu Xiangnan was manageable. Jialon could control him with one hand. However, the knight's strength was too great. As one of the top Red Lotus knights within London's human circle, his physical prowess had long surpassed what an ordinary person could comprehend. Moreover, Jialon was currently using only one hand, making it difficult for her to stop him. The knight shook off Jialon's arm, and with a flick of his wrist, a clear stream of water shot out like silk, swirling toward the silver sphere at the center of the statues. His eyes were filled with excitement and longing. Seeing this, Jialon seemed to recall something unpleasant. Gritting her teeth, she suddenly pressed a button on the black box in her hand, and the golden spear automatically sprang out, instantly gripped in her hand and thrust toward the knight's palm. The sharp tip of the spear pierced through the knight's palm, blood splattering out. The intense pain jolted the knight awake from his dazed state, and a look of terror flashed in his eyes. "Sorry," Jialon said, her eyes filled with determination. Whoosh! A snow-white leg whistled through the air, striking heavily against his chest. The terrifying force sent him flying, crashing into a deep gray wall over 20 meters away, landing on the ground. Almost simultaneously, the clear stream of water touched the silver sphere. The chaotic, rolling silver sphere seemed to come alive, a mysterious silver light spreading through the air along the water flow, but abruptly stopping at the end of the stream. If Jialon hadn't kicked the knight away just now, that silver light would have likely entered his body by now. At this moment, Wu Xiangnan had also awakened. He stared in shock at the silver sphere, then glanced at the knight who had been injured and kicked away by Jialon, a look of confusion crossing his face. "What's going on? What happened?" Wu Xiangnan looked at Jialon, who was holding the spear. "This thing cannot be touched," Jialon said seriously. "At least not by you. It's incompatible with your bodies and contains impurities. If you recklessly absorb it, you'll die within 3 months and there's no cure." Wu Xiangnan was taken aback. "What exactly is this thing?" Jialon glanced back at the silver sphere, her brow furrowing tightly. "This is some kind of origin." "Origin? It's the soil that nurtures laws. Once absorbed, it grants the possibility of becoming a god without risk, and the entire level of one's life will be elevated, no longer belonging to the simple category of human," Jialon explained. "Becoming a god without risk." Wu Xiangnan was stunned by these words. He turned to look at the grotesque statues yearning to approach the temple, as if he understood something. "So these things are all here to snatch the origin?" "Most likely. The origin signifies the evolution of life levels. No creature can resist its temptation." Hearing this, Wu Xiangnan was taken aback. He turned to Jialon. "What about you? Why weren't you attracted to it?" Jialon avoided Wu Xiangnan's gaze, pressed her lips together and remained silent. "Ahem." The knight staggered to his feet from the corner, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth as he asked, "Origin? Why have I never heard of it? Where did you learn about this?" Jialon remained silent. Seeing that Jialon wouldn't speak, Wu Xiangnan and the knight had no intention of pressing further. They exchanged a glance, a look of helplessness in their eyes. Regardless, if Jialan hadn't stopped them just now, they would have likely absorbed this origin into their bodies and awaited their demise. Just as Wu Xiangnan was about to say something, his gaze swept over the shimmering silver stream on the ground beside him, and suddenly his pupils constricted. He saw that the stream mixed with silver light was flowing along the ruins' crevices, streaming into the scattered group of statues. The silver illusionary light surged in the air, and all the statues present in this ruin suddenly began to tremble violently. The earth rumbled. Chapter 711. The Awakening of the Statue. Feeling the tremors of the earth, the expressions of Lin Qier and the two others in the cramped room suddenly changed. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Qier first set down the pixel gun in his hand, extending his mental power to carefully sense everything around him. After passing through the torii wall, they had directly arrived in this room. The torii likely possessed the power to shift space, meaning they were no longer in the outer area of the city ruins but had come to a completely unfamiliar place. This was likely the core area of the ruins. As his mental power expanded, Lin Qie's brows furrowed tighter. With his current level of mental power, his sensing range was nearly 10 kilometers. But even with full coverage he could only perceive an endless series of small rooms with nothing else detected. This sensation reminded Lin Qie of the time in the training camp when the spatial cube folded the dormitory building, but the difference was that in the training camp, the rooms were disordered, creating an endless illusion, while here the rooms were truly infinite. There were no doors, no windows, like an infinitely large Go board, where the squares represented endless rooms, and the black lines were neatly arranged corridors. Strangely, within some of the walls, there were bizarre stone statues, each with different appearances and actions. When Lin Qie's mental power touched the surface of these statues, it was blocked from entering even a fraction. Lin Qie was somewhat puzzled by the existence of these statues but did not dwell on it, merely considering them as some kind of mysterious symbol or ritual. Unable to find a way out, Lin Qie returned to the wall they had come through, reaching out to touch the wall's surface, which was incredibly hard and impenetrable, preventing him from returning to the torii wall. Lin Qie's brows were tightly locked. He quickly walked up to Wei Dong, aiming the pixel gun at his forehead, and coldly spoke. "What is this place? How do we get out?" With the gun pressed against his forehead, Wei Dong helplessly closed his eyes and said, "I don't know either. Each torii on that wall connects to different places. I didn't enter through that torii before. This is my first time here. Believe it or not, it's up to you." Just as Lin Qie was about to say something, a crack suddenly appeared in the wall behind Yu Gongqinghui. Crack. Yu Gongqinghui was taken aback and turned to look as strands of pitch-black hair extended from the crack in the wall, like a swarm of fierce, thin snakes rushing toward him. The speed of these strands was astonishing, so fast that even Lin Qie did not notice their appearance in advance. The moment these strands shot toward Yu Gongqinghui like lightning, the latter's hand, which had been resting on the hilt of his knife at his waist, suddenly exerted force. Clay. A deep blue blade light sliced through the air like a crescent moon, firmly blocking the dense strands of hair. The strands frantically struck against the blade, creating dazzling sparks. The power contained within these strands was immense. Yu Gongqinghui felt his arms go numb, and he was uncontrollably sent flying backward. Immediately after, multiple strands of black hair surged out from the crack, stabbing toward Yu Gongqinghui from all directions. Yu Gongqinghui's pupils suddenly constricted. Instinctively he wanted to activate the rain collapse and directly shatter all the strands, but this was the ruins. Once he activated the power of the Hozuki knife, it would fly out of his hand and into the depths of the ruins. In a split second he suppressed his fear and did not hastily strike out with that knife. This was not because he was unafraid of death, but because he knew someone would help him block this attack. A black figure instantly flickered in front of him. Night flicker. Lin Qie, dressed in a black knitted trench coat, stepped into the night, his eyes shimmering with starlight. He gazed at the overwhelming strands of hair rushing toward him, pressing his hands in the air, and two magic circles rapidly unfolded. In the next moment, two straight blades fell into his hands. Drunken flowers fill the hall for 3,000 guests, a single sword cold as frost across 14 states. Lin Qie murmured, and the dual blades in his hands began to tremble violently. The straight blades lightly sliced through the sea of hair, and the surging sword light rolled out like a torrent, instantly cutting all the strands in front of him into fragments, which fell to the ground in disarray, twisting like maggots. Seeing this scene, Wei Dong suddenly froze in place. Everything had happened too quickly. He only saw Lin Chia flicker to Yu Gongqingwei's side, swiftly draw two straight blades, and then effortlessly slice through the endless strands of hair. During this process he hadn't even drawn the Hozuki knife at his waist. What was going on? Aren't you a Hozuki knife master? How come you can be so fierce without even drawing the Hozuki knife? Wei Dong looked at Lin Chia, who stood amidst the scattered hair, his gaze naturally falling on the two straight blades in his hands, his brows slightly furrowing. He suddenly felt that these blades seemed somewhat familiar. Stone statue. Lin Chia gripped the dual blades, his gaze fixed on the wall from which the strands extended. Amidst the rubble, a pitch-black female ghost statue was rapidly melting, restoring its original form, and the sea of ghostly hair came from her head. Lin Chia seemed to realize something and abruptly turned to look around. Crack crack. The sound of walls breaking echoed from all around, with cracks of varying sizes spreading across some of the walls. On some surfaces, a hand, half a head, or long fingernails had already broken through, and the rising roars echoed throughout the space, sending chills down the spine, as if countless demons were about to break through the walls. The stone statues embedded in the walls all began to come to life. Within Lin Chia's sensing range, the number of these statues breaking out from the walls was at least 60 or 70. Lin Chia's expression darkened instantly. He had no time to ponder the reason for the sudden awakening of these statues, as the black-haired female ghost had completely crawled out from the wall. With a slight shake of her head, the hair cascading over her face revealed a pale visage devoid of features, save for a mouth filled with jagged fangs. She crawled like a beast, opened her mouth, and let out a sharp scream directed at Lin Chia. Thousands of black strands surged forth once more. Lin Chia, holding the dual blades, felt a furnace-like heat and sacred flame ignite in his eyes. The overwhelming pressure of a seraph surged from him, completely suppressing the evil aura of the black-haired female ghost, causing the wave of hair to suddenly halt. Wildfire cannot be extinguished. Spring winds will blow again. Lin Chia murmured, forcefully swinging one of the straight blades, the sharp edge erupting with a blinding flame, shooting like a meteor toward the black-haired female ghost's head. Chapter 712. Are you also from the Great Xia? The burning straight knife sliced through the rolling black hair, instantly piercing the head of the black-haired female ghost, flames scorching all the strands of hair that came near the knife, a pungent stench wafting through the air. Amidst the sharp and mournful howls, the fire swept through, completely engulfing the figure of the black-haired female ghost. After killing the black-haired female ghost with a thunderous strike, Lin Chia reached out, and the straight knife flew back into his hand automatically. However, there was no trace of joy on his face, for several revived stone statues had already crawled out from the nearest walls, surrounding them. Run! Lin Chia quickly urged Yumiya Seiwi while sensing the surroundings with his mental power. Without any hesitation, Yumiya Seiwi sheathed her sword, rain collapse, and sprinted after Lin Chia in the direction with the fewest stone statues. After a brief moment of hesitation, Wei Dong also ran to catch up with Lin Chia. He had no forbidden ruins and, having lost his equipment, was just an ordinary person with decent skills. Faced with such a large-scale stone statue attack, survival was nearly impossible, so the best course of action was to escape with Lin Chia. Most importantly, based on Lin Chia's recent abilities, Wei Dong could basically rule out the possibility that he was the master of the Huajin knife. He might even be from outside the human circle, just like himself. And outside the human circle, it seemed that only the Shangye Society had the ability to walk freely in the mist. But he was certain that Lin Chia was not a member of the Shangye Society. There were no marks of the spear of judgment and oath in his hands. No. Wait. Besides the Shangye Society, there was another team capable of moving through the mist. Wei Dong recalled that during his training with the Shangye Society, the president had mentioned that the Night Watchers of Daxia had a special team, the 005 Special Squad, responsible for traversing the mist and executing confidential missions. The name of that team seemed to be Blue Rain. But wasn't it said that Blue Rain had been destroyed a long time ago? What puzzled Wei Dong the most was that if Lin Chia really came from the mist, how could he suddenly transform into the master of the Huajin knife? After all, not just anyone could become the master of the Huijin knife. It was nearly impossible for someone from another country to be recognized by the Huijin knife soul. With a heart full of doubts, Wei Dong sprinted to Lin Chia's side. The latter glanced at him, about to speak, when he suddenly seemed to sense something and swiftly drew his knife, slashing at a patch of void beside him. Clay. At the edge of the empty wall, a small figure holding a short stick emerged, its pale eyes fixed on the straight knife in Lin Chia's hand, seemingly astonished. It took a step back, its form becoming ethereal again, disappearing from Wei Dong's sight. You can't escape. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, stepping forward as green sprouts burst from the ground around him, rapidly growing into a lush lawn, spreading like a raging fire. Eternal secret garden. Bud after bud bloomed on the verdant grass, ensnaring a patch of void, forcing the small figure with the short stick to reappear, its ankles tightly bound by the flowers and grass, unable to move an inch. Immediately, numerous buds began to grow on its skin, siphoning its strength and vitality, its body visibly withering at an alarming rate, its expression one of sheer terror. Lin Chia paid it no further mind, instead gripping two straight knives, their blades flashing with pitch-black night, as he engaged in battle with another blue cat demon that charged at him. The cat demon was incredibly fast, even reaching the point of piercing through space, its form flickering intermittently in the air, impossible for the naked eye to follow. However, Lin Chia, cloaked in night, used his formidable dynamic vision and night flicker to forcefully intercept it. The black and blue figures flashed wildly across the lawn, and after a flurry of over 10 strikes, Lin Chia sent the demon flying. Having swiftly dealt with the two obstructive mysteries, Lin Chia, clad in a black trench coat, continued to charge forward across the lush grass, carving a bloody path. Behind him, Yumiya Seiwi and Wei Dong watched in shock, their mouths agape. Yumiya Seiwi had never seen Lin Chia unleash his full power. It was only at this moment that he realized just how ferocious Lin Chia could be without the restrictions of the Forbidden Ruins. Wei Dong's shock, however, stemmed from a completely different perspective. As a human from the mist, he was well aware of the Forbidden Ruins. Lin Chia had just demonstrated at least 4 distinctly different abilities without even drawing the Huijin knife from his waist, something he had never heard of before. Aren't you from the Japanese human circle? After a moment of contemplation, Wei Dong couldn't help but ask. This time, however, he spoke not in Japanese but in genuine Chinese. Upon hearing this, Lin Chia, who was sprinting forward with both knives in hand, paused, turning back to Wei Dong and responding in Chinese. Aren't you from Daxia? Wei Dong's mouth twitched and he felt a wave of frustration wash over him. So, the two Daxia people had been probing each other in Japanese for so long, only to find out they were on the same side. Are you a night watcher? Which team? How did you get here? Lin Chia fired off a series of questions. I'm not a night watcher, Wei Dong shook his head. I come from the Shangye Society. The Shangye Society? Lin Chia paused. I've never heard of it. The Shangye Society is... Wei Dong began but suddenly ducked as a sharp spike whizzed past his scalp, nearly piercing his head. He turned to look behind him, where 7 or 8 revived stone statues were frantically pursuing the 3 of them down the corridor. I can't explain it clearly right now, let's talk after we get out of here. As he spoke, Wei Dong reached out his hand to Lin Chia while running. What for? Give me back my equipment, I can help you. Lin Chia hesitated for a moment before tossing the pixel handgun to Wei Dong. Since Wei Dong's identity as a Daxia person had been confirmed, any misunderstandings between them could be temporarily set aside. In this unfamiliar country, Lin Chia was willing to trust a fellow Daxia compatriot once more. Besides, he had secretly left a summoning spell on the pixel handgun. If Wei Dong truly intended to backstab him, it would be Wei Dong who would end up dead. Trust and caution were not mutually exclusive. Wei Dong caught the pixel handgun, weighed it in his hand and without looking back, fired several shots at the pursuing stone statues, the pixel bullets whistling through the air, accurately targeting the heads of the mysteries. Chapter 713. Joining forces against the enemy. Boom boom boom. Several bursts of pixelated flames erupted, completely engulfing a few mysterious figures, which disintegrated into a sky full of pixels and vanished without a trace. Lin Chia observed this scene with his mental power, relaxing his guard against Wei Dong somewhat. His mental energy swept ahead, confirming the positions of several mysterious entities that had broken through the walls, and he quickly chose the optimal escape route to avoid their encirclement. Do you really not know any other clues? Lin Chia frowned as he looked at Wei Dong. There are too many of these things. If we can't find an exit soon, we'll eventually be worn down here. I really don't know, Wei Dong said with a bitter smile. All I know is that this shrine is a place dedicated to worshipping demons, and those stone statues are all mysteries from Japan. However, I initially thought they were just ordinary statues. I never expected they could actually revive. Mysteries from Japan? Lin Chia pondered. Before Wei Dong initiated the plan to destroy the human circle in Japan, he had specifically researched this area, which is why he could recognize these as local mysteries. Lin Chia, however, had not studied this in such detail during his training camp, so he naturally overlooked these details. But when he heard this, a flash of inspiration struck him as if he had thought of something. Do you know about the Yamayuba? Lin Chia asked. Of course, it's also a type of demon from Japanese folklore. Lin Chia's eyes suddenly lit up. What did you think of? Amamiya Haruki asked, puzzled. That prophecy, at the base of the Yamayuba statue lies the key to leaving the dead zone. Lin Chia said seriously. This place has no exit and there are still many local mysteries pursuing us from behind. It can definitely be considered a dead zone, and there are many statues reviving here. The three elements of Yamayuba, statue, and dead zone, are all present. If that prophecy refers to this situation, then the way to leave here might be hidden at the base of the Yamayuba statue. The premise is that the result of this prophecy is correct, Amamiya Haruki reminded. We have no other choice. Amamiya Haruki fell silent for a moment before nodding. Then let's take a gamble. Tell me the appearance characteristics of the Yamayuba, and I'll try to find it, Lin Chia said as he ran, closing his eyes. With the descriptions from Amamiya Haruki and Wei Dong, Lin Chia quickly located the Yamayuba statue. It was a half-spider, half-seductive woman, just about to break through the wall, covered in dense webs, with a pair of blood-red eyes wide open, scanning the surroundings. However, its position was exactly opposite to the direction Lin Chia and the others needed to escape. This meant that to reach there, Lin Chia would have to turn back and fight through the dozen or so relentless Japanese demons pursuing them. Of course, Lin Chia could directly use Night Flicker to get there, but Amamiya Haruki and Wei Dong could not. To the opposite direction, Lin Chia took a deep breath. We have to break through. Amamiya Haruki placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, a serious look flashing in his eyes. Although he couldn't use the Kazuki blade, his swordsmanship skills were still intact, so he wouldn't be completely powerless in battle. Wei Dong pulled out a magazine from his bag, loaded it into his handgun, and held a pixel grenade in his left hand. He bit down on the safety, releasing the silver ring, and said, You lead the way and we'll cover you. Lin Chia nodded. All right. As soon as he finished speaking, the three of them stopped simultaneously, turned to face the dozen or so roaring Japanese demons, and stomped their feet on the ground, launching themselves forward like arrows. Lin Chia swung his straight knife, striking at the leading demon while simultaneously gesturing in the air, causing a massive summoning array to open once more. A flash of white light appeared and a small figure wrapped in bandages landed on Lin Chia's shoulder, hugging his neck and tilting its head slightly. Mumu, it's time to work. Hey! Crack, crack, crack. The bandages on Mumu's back quickly unraveled and shiny mounted missiles hovered behind it, with blinding flames erupting from the missile tails, roaring toward the dozen or so demons surging down the corridor behind them. Damn! Wei Dong's eyes widened at this scene, and he blurted out a phrase from traditional Chinese culture before quickly covering his ears. Boom! 3 mounted missiles exploded simultaneously in the narrow space, the tremendous shockwave tearing the surrounding rooms into pieces, and the surging flames instantly engulfed the figures of the dozen demons. At the same time, Mumu leaped off Lin Chia's shoulder, rapidly expanding into a massive steel fortress, blocking the intense flames from reaching the three of them. Amamiya Haruki had seen Lin Chia use missiles before, but this scene was truly beyond Wei Dong's comprehension. Launching air-to-ground mounted missiles with a mere gesture? This level of ferocity was comparable to the president. Once the flames subsided, the steel fortress shrank like a balloon, transforming back into a pendant-like mummy on Lin Chia's back, as the three figures swiftly navigated through the waves of fire. Several cold glimmers flickered out from the sea of flames. Even though Mumu's firepower was at its maximum, a few demons still survived the explosion. The more widely known the stories of these demons, the stronger they became. At this moment, the demons that could break through the flames were not the weaklings Lin Chia had easily dispatched before. A phantom holding a green lantern collided with Lin Chia head-on, and the green light from the lantern flared up. In that instant, an endless aura of death suddenly enveloped Lin Chia, as if it had a life of its own, crazily drilling into his 7 orifices. Lin Chia frowned just as he was about to take action. A gunshot rang out beside him. A pixel bullet accurately struck the green lantern in the phantom's hand, instantly disintegrating it into a sky full of pixels, and the death aura surrounding Lin Chia dissipated as well. Lin Chia turned to look, and Wei Dong was holding a handgun, smiling slightly at him. Clay. In an instant, a flash of blade light shot out from Amamiya Haruki's waist, carving a semicircle through the flames, severing the head of the phantom that had lost its green lantern. Immediately after, several demons surged out from different directions through the flames, roaring as they charged toward Lin Chia, who was running in front. More than people, Lin Chia muttered to himself. He extended his hand and pressed in the air, causing 9 dazzling magic circles to flicker in front of him. Figures dressed in deep blue protective gear emerged from the magic circles, intercepting the demons. Chapter 7:14. It's my turn. Now the 9 caretakers summoned by Lin Chia, although only at the Chuan level with low combat power, possess extremely strong abilities to hinder and disrupt enemies. The combined efforts of these 9 caretakers are enough to obstruct the few demons present. Amidst the blazing flames, Lin Chia and his 2 companions dashed forward. Wei Dong fired his pixel pistol continuously, reducing all the walls blocking their path to pixelated rubble, advancing straight toward the target wall. The 3 moved at incredible speed, and within a minute, they had traversed numerous rooms, arriving at the wall where the Spider-Woman, the Joragumo, was located. At this moment, the half-Spider-Woman had climbed to the top of the room, her spider legs clinging to the ceiling. Upon seeing Lin Chia and his companions, she charged at them with astonishing speed, her steel-like spider silk ricocheting around the room, instantly weaving into a massive web. The 3 stood before the room, halting simultaneously. Does she have the key on her? Amaya Seiwi turned to Lin Chia, knowing that Lin Chia had sensing abilities that could locate the key from a distance. Lin Chia scanned the Joragumo with his mental power and shook his head. She doesn't have it. Amaya Seiwi's brows furrowed immediately. Just then Lin Chia spoke again. However, the original prophecy states, at the base of the Joragumo's statue. This refers to the location where her statue was before her revival, which is inside the wall, not the Joragumo herself. In the crevice of that wall there is a 50-yen coin. I don't know if that is the so-called key, but we have no other options now. A 50-yen coin? Wei Dong was taken aback as if recalling something. I once came across a Japanese legend that said a 50-yen coin carries people's wishes. If you toss it and it lands with the chrysanthemum side up, it means the wish can be fulfilled. Let's give it a try. As soon as he finished speaking, the Joragumo let out a shriek and countless strands of spider silk danced in the air. The surface of these silks emitted a chilling blade-like gleam, cutting through the surrounding walls and turning them into a storm of debris. A spider silk storm was brewing around the Joragumo. What should we do now? Wei Dong turned to Lin Chia. You guys hold her off for a moment while I go get the coin. Lin Chia's gaze fixed on the wall. The spider silk here is too dense. You don't have the spatial abilities to get through. Have to go. This mystery is at the Klein level. We don't need to confront it head-on. Just hold on until I return. Hold off a Klein level mystery? Wei Dong felt a headache coming on. He was a paratrooper, and lacked the ability to fight against such a high-level mystery. After all, his tasks usually took place within the human circle. With the equipment he had, it was nearly impossible to hold off the Klein-level Joragumo. As for the other wielder of the Hozuki blade, he couldn't even use the Hozuki blade. Even if he risked losing it, he could only strike once. How could he buy time? Amaya Sewi seemed to have thought of something and turned to Lin Chia, hesitating to speak. Then perhaps we can try that move we thought of before entering the ruins. Lin Chia understood what he wanted to say and nodded. Right now we have no other choice. Amaya Sewi paused. Okay. Hearing their conversation, Wei Dong felt a bit lost, but the situation no longer allowed him to think too much. The storm of spider silk was already flying toward them. Without hesitation, he threw the pixel grenade in his hand directly ahead. With the explosion of the pixel grenade, a large portion of the spider silk dissipated into pixels. At the same time, Lin Chia's figure transformed into a shadow and vanished, quickly flashing toward the wall behind the Jorgumo. Wei Dong had only one grenade. Although it destroyed most of the spider silk, as long as the Jorgumo was alive, the silk would continue to regenerate. Moments later, another wave of spider silk flew toward the two. Amaya Sewi slightly bent his body, resting his palm on the hilt of his deep blue long knife, his eyes filled with seriousness. He had only one chance to strike. The storm of spider silk emitted a chilling gleam, silently slicing through the air. The fierce wind made Wei Dong's cheeks sting. He was mere moments away from being sliced by the nearby spider silk. He instinctively took a step back and couldn't help but say to Amaya Sewi beside him, "What are you waiting for? If you don't strike now, we're both dead." The swirling spider silk severed a lock of Amaya Sewi's hair. A glint of cold light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and with a soft sound, the yuban at his waist was drawn in an instant. Endless rainwater surged from the scabbard, clinging to the deep blue blade, coalescing into a menacing water dragon that coiled around Amaya Sewi. Water Dragon's Canopy. Amaya Sewi spoke in a low voice, and the deep blue blade slashed forward in an instant. The water dragon behind him emitted a faint blue glow, howling as it charged toward the Jorgumo, who was at the center of the spider silk storm. Droplets of rainwater collided with the spider silk, producing a sound like metal clashing, and the rising mist engulfed Amaya Sewi's figure, while the spider silk that filled the space before him and Wei Dong was shattered piece by piece. Whoosh! At that moment, a flash of black and white light flickered beneath Amaya Sewi's feet. The yuban in his hand, along with its scabbard, seemed to be pulled by some powerful force, suddenly slipping from his grasp. Even though Amaya Sewi was prepared and held onto the yuban tightly, he was powerless against this mysterious force. He could only watch helplessly as the blade flew away from him, vanishing into the void. The yuban was gone. Amaya Sewi's heart sank to his throat as he turned to the other side. At this moment, Lin Chia had already flashed to the back of the Jorgumo. He punched through the broken wall, and amidst the flying debris, his mental power locked onto a 50-yen coin dancing within, grasping it in his palm. He then turned and transformed into a shadow, approaching Amaya Sewi and Wei Dong. The Jorgumo seemed to sense something, redirecting her target toward Lin Chia, who was flickering among the dense spider silk, and let out another furious roar. As hundreds of spider silk strands shot toward him, Lin Chia narrowed his eyes. He extended his hand and pressed in the air, causing a magic circle to bloom before him. When the magical light faded, a deep blue long knife was quietly held in his hand. It was the yuban which had just been taken away by an unknown force. Summoning magic. Lin Chia swiftly maneuvered through the spider silk, his right hand resting on the hilt at his waist, and suddenly pulled it out with force. "My turn now." Lin Chia held the yuban and murmured, "Water Dragon's Canopy." The deep blue blade light mixed with endless swirling rainwater, instantly piercing through all the spider silk around Lin Chia, the droplets transforming into a dragon, forcefully cutting a path through the mist. Chapter 715. The Gun Fired. This was Lin Chia's first time using the yubeng. It turned out that he could indeed directly harness the power of all the Huijin swords. Although in terms of strength, it was somewhat weaker than what the orthodox swordmaster Yugong Qinghui could unleash. The sheer number could compensate for this shortcoming. After a single strike of the water dragon slash severed the spider silk, the yubeng in Lin Chia's hand also slipped from his grasp and vanished without a trace. His expression remained unchanged as he calmly placed his hand on the second Huijin sword at his waist. The fifth of the 9 Huijin swords, Heisheng. In the next moment, an enormous black blade projection slashed out from Lin Chia's side, resembling a pitch-black steel wall that directly separated the countless strands of spider silk from Lin Chia and the other two. Sparks flew as the spider silk and blade projection clashed, but it could never surpass it. Unfortunately, this blade projection lasted less than 3 seconds before the heisheng in Lin Chia's hand also slipped from his grip. But those 3 seconds were enough. Lin Chia used the night flicker to appear directly in front of Yu Gong Qinghui and Wei Dong, spreading his palm to reveal a 50-yen coin, which he forcefully tossed into the air. If what Wei Dong said was true, as long as he threw this coin and it landed with the chrysanthemum side facing up, they would be able to successfully leave this place. Although Lin Chia possessed the mortal realm, the probability of the coin landing on the chrysanthemum side was only 50%, which did not meet the conditions to activate a miracle. Moreover, there was no time to have Merlin intervene again. He could only rely on his luck for a gamble. The coin flipped freely in the air and landed steadily in Lin Chia's palm, the chrysanthemum design facing upwards. Before Lin Chia could say anything, the space around the three of them instantly distorted and vanished from their original location. Boom! Before the Black Temple, a deafening explosion erupted, and surging flames danced among the remnants of the shrine. A figure in a blue robe wielding a golden spear charged out from the inferno. At this moment, most of the stone statues in front of the temple had already awakened. One after another, terrifying demons regained their freedom, roaring and rushing toward the Black Temple. On their path, the expressions of Jialon and the other two were extremely grave. The targets of these demons were all the silver spheres held by the stone statues and the three standing in front of the temple. They've all gone mad. The knight, gripping a western longsword, beheaded one of the demons. His body was already covered in blood, most of it from the demons. He looked at the dozens of howling demons rushing toward him and said with a serious expression, "They must see us as thieves trying to steal the source, and want to tear us apart," Wu Xiangnan calmly speculated. "What do we do now?" "Run," Wu Xiangnan decisively replied. "There are too many of them. The three of us can't win in a head-on fight." Jialon slowed her pace, landing behind the two. She turned to look at the aggressively charging demons, gripping the golden spear. Her deep blue robe billowed in the roar of the demons as she took a deep breath and calmly said, "You two run ahead, I'll hold them off." The knight and Wu Xiangnan were taken aback. They hadn't expected that in such a critical moment, the seemingly fragile Jialon would actively request to stay behind and hold off the demons. Just as they were about to say something, Jialan's voice rang out again. "Their speed is too fast. If the three of us run together, we won't be able to shake them off. One of us has to hold them back." Jialan paused. "Don't worry, I won't get hurt or die. I can definitely make it back safely, and I've seen this kind of scene many times in the past 2 years." As her words fell, before the two could respond, Jialan shot out like an arrow, plunging into the roaring horde of demons with her golden spear. Letting a girl stay behind to hold them off isn't the knightly way. The knight watched as Jialon dove into the demon crowd, shrugged, twirled his long sword, and with a powerful push against the ground followed Jialon into the fray. Wu Xiangnan watched these two fierce individuals charge into the demon horde, his mouth twitching slightly. "Fine. You two are tough. It's just death, right? Who's afraid of whom?" He muttered to himself, gripping his long sword and also charging into the chaos. Jialon infused her mental energy into the Tianke spear and suddenly thrust it towards several demons ahead. A thick golden beam of light pierced through the void, directly reducing them to ashes. Just as she prepared to continue her assault, black and white flashed beneath her feet. The Tianke spear in her hand suddenly slipped from her grasp and shot into the sky, flying off to an unknown destination. Jialon was stunned. Where did the spear go? Why did it fly away? Is it not possible to use weapons here? Without her weapon, Jialon dodged several attacks and then rolled up her sleeves, punching down a 2-meter-tall demon, shouting to the knight beside her. "No, even in the human circle, weapons can still be used." The knight replied, puzzled. "Moreover, we haven't fully entered the human circle yet, so we shouldn't be affected." "Then why did my spear fly away?" Jialon asked, fuming. I don't know either." Jialon looked at her empty hands, growing more frustrated. She simply charged directly at a demon, swinging her fists and engaging in close combat. In the gray sky above, the space twisted and 3 figures emerged from the void, rapidly descending from the sky. A strong sense of weightlessness enveloped Lin Chia and the others. After tossing the chrysanthemum side up, the 3 were directly transported to a high altitude above the ruins. Beside them was a river of aurora scattered with faint blue light far from the ground. Falling from this height would likely mean certain death. Of course, this was assuming Lin Chia did not intervene. In mid-air, Lin Chia gently waved his hand, and a large amount of cloud energy surged beneath him, forming a cloud that safely caught the falling Yugong Qinghui and Wei Dong. Wei Dong lay on the cloud taking a deep breath. He sat up and glanced down, looking at Lin Chia with a strange expression. You can wield Huajin swords, summon allies, use so many forbidden techniques, and now you can even ride the clouds? What exactly are you? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow and took out his emblem from his pocket, handing it to Wei Dong. I haven't had the chance to introduce myself. Lin Chia paused and said, I am Lin Chia, the captain of the Nightfall team, a special squad of the Dian Night Watch, number 005. 005? Is this the new team established after the destruction of the Blue Rain team? Upon hearing this number, Wei Dong seemed to understand something, standing up solemnly and extending his hand to Lin Chia, where a long spear mark lay quietly in his palm. Member of the Shaya Society, Paratrooper, Wei Dong. Chapter 716. The End of the Aurora River. Amaya Haruki watched as the 2 individuals solemnly introduced themselves, hesitating whether he should also coldly state, the master of the Japanese wakizashi, Yubing, Amaya Haruki. After some thought, he decided to keep his mouth shut. After all, his sword was not in his hand, and calling himself the master of the wakizashi would be somewhat embarrassing. Whoosh. At that moment, the 50-yen coin resting in Lin Chia's palm, just like the 2 wakizashi, slipped from his grasp and flew off in the direction of the Aurora River, disappearing from sight. Lin Chia stood frozen in place. Why did the coin fly away too? Wasn't it only the wakizashi that couldn't be used? It seems that not only the wakizashi but also forbidden items cannot be used here, Wei Dong observed thoughtfully upon witnessing this scene. The coin that helped us escape from the dead zone should also be a type of forbidden item. Otherwise, it wouldn't possess the power to shift space. Not only the wakizashi, but once a forbidden item is used, it will also slip away? Wait, this scene looks so familiar. Lin Chia seemed to recall something, disbelief flashing in his eyes. Could it be such a coincidence? Where is this place? Amaya Haruki asked, looking around in confusion. Under the gray sky, apart from the flowing Aurora River beside the 3 of them, there was nothing else to be seen, as if they had entered an endless universe, dead and desolate. It should be directly above the demon shrine. Wei Dong glanced below and said, the torii wall connects various corners of the demon shrine. The place we just escaped from is a mysterious area used by the shrine to imprison some statues, like a kind of cage. The direction the coin just flew in is the same as where the Aurora River flows. If nothing unexpected happens, that should be the source where the wakizashi cannot be used. Lin Chia snapped back to reality from a bold thought, waving his hand to summon Yubing and Heisheng back again. Let's go check it out. Amaya Haruki took Yubing deep in thought. At the end of the Aurora River sits the supreme existence that transcends the past and future. Could the existence mentioned in the prophecy be in the same place as the source? Possibly. Lin Chia activated his nimbus cloud and swiftly flew forward along the scattered Aurora River in the sky. Wei Dong looked at Lin Chia's back as if recalling something. By the way, what is your team's mission for coming to the human circle? Is it to cooperate with us in destroying this place? Due to Amaya Haruki's presence, the 3 communicated in Japanese. Upon hearing this, both Lin Chia and Amaya Haruki froze in place. Human circle? What is that? Lin Chia asked in confusion. Wei Dong's mouth dropped open, staring at Lin Chia for a long time, his expression one of disbelief. Are you serious about this question? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. What's wrong with this question? You don't know how the human circle executes its missions? The situation is a bit complicated. We didn't come here because we received a mission. We drifted here. Lin Chia vaguely recounted how he landed here and continued. So what exactly is the human circle? What did you mean by destruction just now? Wei Dong took a long time to react, helplessly explaining everything again, including the truth about the human circle and the goals of the Xiaxia Association. After listening, the questions that had been troubling Lin Chia were finally resolved. The reason for this country's existence, the presence of the Oracle Envoy and Pure Land, the truth behind the divine authority. At this moment, Lin Chia combined his experiences here with Wei Dong's information, and everything became clear. Lin Chia seemed to think of something and turned to look behind him. Amaya Haruki was standing at the very end of the nimbus cloud, his head lowered, silent. His hand was tightly gripping the hilt of his sword, his knuckles turning slightly white. His body trembled slightly despite his efforts to appear calm, but the flames of anger still burned fiercely in his eyes. Caged. Huh. Amaya Haruki let out a bitter laugh. Is this the truth of this country? Seeing his reaction, Wei Dong looked at Lin Chia, as if asking whether they needed to deal with this Wakizashi master. After all, their goal was to destroy the entire human circle. Amaya Haruki was a local resident and the master of the Wakizashi. If he intervened, things could get very complicated. Lin Chia shook his head at him. Don't doubt me, I agree with destroying the human circle, Amaya Haruki slowly spoke. I can even help you. This country is already beyond saving. There is no other way but complete destruction. But the people inside are innocent, they know nothing. You should know better than I how many people are in this human circle. Wei Dong looked into Amaya Haruki's eyes. Over 50 million people. This is the largest and most insane human circle in the world. These neon-lit cities are the greatest evil in the world. We must destroy this place, but with over 50 million people here, there is simply no place to accommodate them. Moreover, even if we find a suitable place, how will you transport these 50 million people? How will you convince them? Can you guarantee what they will do once they learn the truth? Wei Dong's series of questions plunged Amaya Haruki back into silence. Wei Dong was right. Relocating such a large population in the fog was impossible, and once they learned the truth behind it, their actions would be completely unpredictable. At that point, it would be 50 million irrational refugees. After a long while, Amaya Haruki hoarsely spoke. I will find a way to deal with this matter. Wei Dong didn't say much more. How to handle these 50 million people was not within his mission scope. Whatever Amaya Haruki wanted to do was his business, as long as it didn't conflict with him. As they spoke, the nimbus cloud passed through the Aurora River, and a massive blue cloud hung quietly in the sky. In the center of the cloud sat an ancient, crumbling gray-green palace. The massive columns surrounding the palace had mostly weathered away, and a pitch-black palace door stood tightly closed, with a faint blue glow flowing out from the crack. That was the end of the Aurora River. Lin Chia piloted the nimbus cloud directly above this cloud and slowly descended. The palace was made of an unknown material that blocked Lin Chia's spiritual perception. The three jumped down from the nimbus cloud, landing steadily on the blue cloud. Between the cloud vapors lay a thick expanse of stone slabs, sturdy enough to support their weight.